Welcome, my 346 subscribers, everyone who gave up on the pay-per-view just because of the build, as well as something the other company's doing better. Everyone who's not scared of a bit of blood because it's not real. It's like a movie, it's a controlled environment. Why do you have to be a B word or a P word? And welcome, everyone who knows what something good is and is willing to acknowledge it. Welcome to my review of AEW Revolution, March 5, 2023. Like the video, let's begin. So before I talk about the main show, I'm just going to go through the pre-show a bit. So as expected, the Faces won in that 6-man tag team match. But then there's the rest of the pre-show. And RJ City's like a treasure of AEW. His series called Hey EW is like an amazing watch on YouTube, but he sort of didn't jive well with some of his interview guests. I think he needs to work on that more. He works better if like the situation is more controlled, if it's pre-recorded. But yeah, he hits gold though with some. For example, Powerhouse Hobbs. He got the fans chanting for that one. And they always have this like dynamic, even with like baby faces, that RJ City's always being bullied, and like with some, you need to go with RJ's jokes because that's when like it really works, and like not have this dynamic that you're gonna kick his ass all the time. So yeah, that's it for the pre-show. Renee Paquette, of course, the perfect choice to be here. She's experienced, she has the voice, she has a personality. They just need to get some reps with this format and it'll be all good. So yeah, on to the main show. So the first match is Ricky Starks versus Chris Jericho. And I was so relieved that this match went on first, since this would have been killed if placed anywhere else on the show. There's no titles, there's no stipulation, it's the worst feud coming in, and it's a rematch. And I think it's the perfect spot to put it because the crowd is like just itching for the show. They're energized, they'll cheer for basically anything except like a Jade match. And yeah, that's exactly what they did here, because this match really needed it. It's the usual structured match. There was a lot of downtime. It gets a bit more intense than their previous one, but nothing special before the climax. This was so made for TV compared to the other matches on the card. It's more of a storyteller, and the story is Starks' torso, and I like how he sold this consistently, especially the part when he tried to do his like spot on the ropes in order to get to the apron. He did it and then he sold it. He managed to do it like really slowly. I think this was on purpose. And this sets him up for the springboard dropkick that Jericho does. Second half of the match picks up. The climax is fast and fun, and that's where all of these spots of the match happens. Number 2 is the code breaker while Starks is running. And number 1 is where Starks blocks a Judas effect, hits a Rochambeau for the win. So yeah, this match needed to happen. It was needed to end the feud. And it was better than I expected. It's just like not epic enough, as I say. It's missing that like drama or intense storytelling or like just the great moves as well as the high speed that the other matches have. Plain and simple, this was a TV match put in a pay-per-view. And they even almost break the rules with Sammy Guevara almost helping. Like that really didn't need to happen. Sammy Guevara coming out should have been an automatic like disqualification of firing a suspension, but I guess he didn't get to ringside. He was stopped right at the ramp. Oh yeah, that's kind of a nice workaround. Technically he wasn't at ringside, so yeah, I'm okay with that. TV undercard, pay-per-view undercard match. This was an okay opener. So after this is the final burial between Jack Perry. Yes, I called him Jack Perry because there was no jungle in that boy. Against Christian Cage. This was as advertised to be a fight, but not exactly a buried alive match. It's more of a casket match. It has a very similar rule set and structure as like the buried alive matches in SmackDown vs. Raw. I mean, it's really a casket match where the whole casket thing is a bit silly since the ending involved like just putting an opponent in a casket and then it drops. It's a bit funny looking and then sort of undermines the drama of the whole match, but it's alright. The tradition of just the props ruining matches, but this time like not completely. I can't say the match was ruined because this was less stupid than the exploding ring match. It just sort of took away the gravity of the moment just a bit. Yeah, this was supposed to be like an emotional moment for Jungle Boy, but just looked a bit silly. They could have just like buried Christian the old-fashioned way, like where Jungle Boy has to dump soil on him, but I'm guessing that would take a very long time. They don't even have like an actual like machine there, so it's alright. The match still hit for me, even if it did not for some people. So yeah, for the match itself, it was Christian being afraid of the mound. The match is as advertised, a fight, and they take it through the entire arena. No wrestling was done here, and when Christian and Jungle Boy approached the mound, I like that Christian had the fear of God put in him, because that guy didn't want to be near that mound. He played an amazing heel the entire time, just like he usually does, and there was no wrestling done. We didn't have like the fun Jungle Boy. This was like a fight with adult Jack Perry. This was like a Mox match, but a lot much less so than what Hangman and Mox did later. That's like another story. But it's just like a lot of greedy, dirty fucking fighting. He had this awesome spot where Christian just stepped on Jungle Boy's hair, and this thing is its whole submission move. And we have some sick bumps, just like Jungle Boy slipping on the steel steps. We get a little taste of color, like just a taste of what we'll see later, after Christian gets headbutted and like thrown to places. But honestly, it was just like one headbutt. There's a like cute little cut on Christian's head. That's just the tip of the iceberg of the blood that we'll get in this show. And I fucking love it. That if you have like a feud that is as mean-spirited, such as this, where one guy is making fun of like another person's dead father, that the offense is as mean-spirited as the feud is. They're not here to present beautiful wrestling. They're here to shove a person into a hole. The second part of the match is when Christian whips Jungle Boy all the way to the mound, and then they just start shoving each other in the hole. And when that doesn't work, they take bumps. Hard bumps. Including Christian, who I'm respecting even more, and who actually I'm liking even more than Edge. Dude gets pushed off of the stage to like the floor under. Jungle Boy does a dive, and then we move on to the last part of the match. It's all very movie-like. It's all very cinematic. It's like a 1v1 fight between a movie protagonist and a movie villain. It's a slow and tedious back and forth to get a person in a casket. It's pretty much just like the game. I don't think selling is as good as the Mox vs. Hangman match, but it's okay. We have an action hero here in Jack Perry. But yeah, they each get a chance to shove the person inside the casket. Christian, in desperation, low blows Jungle Boy, throws him in casket. Jungle Boy fights back, tries to throw Christian in the casket, but he eats a face full of dirt. That piece of turf looks like it was like whole. It didn't break down. He ate that whole thing right in the face. And then we get spot of the match, maybe number 2. And it's an unprettier on the stage, on the dirt. And then we have the main storytelling point, which is the concerto, which Christian has been doing to Jungle Boy just willy-nilly. And Jungle Boy just couldn't do to anyone, except apparently one of the Bucks. And after escaping, I like the detail where Jungle Boy uses like the shovel. Christian uses a chair. Jungle Boy has a more stable grip with the shovel, so when they like sword fight with it, the chair on Christian's hands just like gets knocked out. It was impossible to hold on to it. We get like a near miss of like a full force shovel shot by Christian. Jungle Boy just got down right in time. We have a struggle with a shovel, countered to a snare trap. This weakens Christian enough to get in position for the concerto. It's a struggle for Jungle Boy, but he finally hits it. Probably the stiffest concerto I've ever seen. It sounded the loudest, and then Christian is just pretty much out. It's a slow final burial that actually got pretty emotional. Jungle Boy is just sitting there. He knows it's done. He sets Christian up like the proper position of the arms. Gives him a kiss. He was still his mentor, by the way, for like a year. And then he closes the casket, and then the casket just had to drop straight down and then lessen the moment a bit. But if you don't think about that, this was a very emotional moment. Christian was amazing in AEW, and they sort of did him dirty with that just like funny-ass ending. I hope he does his business with Edge, and then he comes right back. Or who knows, he can bring Edge with him. It'll be sick seeing them against FTR. Or if like Christian's still under contract, how cool would it be if AEW just lend a fully contracted talent to the WWE? That'll like shut down every terrible rumor that people have been saying. But yeah, this match, The scores brought down by the props, it should really be pay-per-view main event for me. But it's pay-per-view undercard. It was just what it needed to be. It had everything there to tell a compelling story. But just the casket drop, that was terrible, and it was like false advertising. This is a buried alive match, not a casket match. So yeah, goodbye Christian, see you in the future. So after this is the match without a build. It's insane how ignored this one was. Like, was this even a feud? From what I saw, no it wasn't. I thought both the teams were disrespected, since it's your founders as well as your coolest faction. And the Elite don't even cut a promo. They just kept getting attacked, kept getting these spooky appearances, and no back and forth, really. We don't get their thoughts about this, aside from being the Elite, which is like not much. I was so pissed off with how this was built that I actually thought that the Elite were gonna like leave, they were unmotivated, they were gonna get squashed in this match. But thankfully no, and they didn't even do that like bowing thing that they do when they leave a company. They just have a banger. And I don't know if Tony Khan thought that the match can sell itself. He was right in that department. This match was awesome. It's like the number 3 match in the show in a stacked show. House of Black is the team that the Elite needed to like slow them down. And if they end the feud here, I think that's malpractice, since there's still a lot to be had with these factions. We didn't get the 1v1s we needed, but oh boy, did the fans express what they wanted. So we finally get Kenny versus Buddy. I've been tweeting this as well as saying this in my reviews, and holy shit was this a tease. I won the 1v1 match though, and I have to admit that having them not touch helped with like the mystique of the match. So that when Malachi stepped in with Kenny, it was electric. We get a "this is awesome" chant right away just because these two guys are standing in the ring. Tony Khan, now you know what the fans want. Book this shit while you have them. If these two factions wanted to leave in the first place, like before this match happened, when they heard that fucking crowd just chant "this is awesome" by their mere presence in the ring in front of each other, I think that's some good motivation for them to stay. So yeah, they have a nice cool exchange, ending with them like sitting in front of each other, or Kenny caught off balance, Malachi sitting. This was a great visual, and a preview to a future match between these two, which I think should have happened already. Especially for people who were fans of NXT who wanted to see Kenny Omega versus Malachi Black, but things just didn't work out. Here we get it, but just a taste! So yeah, after this, the funniest thing happens. Matt Jackson, the self-declared big guy of the group, since apparently he's been hitting the gym, challenges the biggest guy in the match, in Brody King. I know you can't really do much storytelling in a show stealer, but this was some nice piece of storytelling. Very minor though, but still pretty funny. And I actually think that this is the sort of thing that the Elite needed. They needed an opponent who can get another type of match from them. Since all they fight are Death Triangle, Top Flight, it's always like the same type of team. Now we have a bunch of heavies, and the Elite, as they should, adjust to the match. We almost never see this dynamic. And oh boy did Brody King look strong. Like not only did he shoulder block every member of the Elite at once, and in like quick succession, but he also kicked out of a 450 splash at 1. It's nice to see the Elite be underdogs again. It's awesome to see them face this guy who, if motivated, is capable of taking all of them out. The match was a complete back and forth between the two teams, and 4 trios match standards. Tag rules were maybe like a 6 out of 10, enforced and followed. Kenny gets control for his team, but we're shown why he is, like why he was the former champion. Why he's a cut above the rest, and no matter how big you are, Kenny can just like take you down. But we don't get the payoff, since he doesn't fully succeed. Eventually, Brody just powers out of a "you can't escape," and then Buddy dropkicks him to the Bucks, taking them all out. Kenny can't single-handedly take Brody out yet, but he does so with the help of the Bucks as well as Brody's carelessness. I honestly can't wait with the 1v1s between Kenny and Buddy, and then Kenny and fucking Brody. Kenny is gonna Son Goku all of the members of House of Black, and just like, except Malachi. The Bucks are gonna lose so much. So yeah, I guess the story of the match is the Elite's desperation. Brody actually, like, upon a rewatch, had some pretty good amount of control over all three members of the Elite. It took Kenny powering up, but eventually getting leveled as well, in order to, like, take him out. We get, like, a fast move exchange that is just as intricate as what the Bucks usually do, but with a lot more weight in it. And instead of, like, high-flying stuff, like high-flying past this guy to this guy sort of stuff, it's just simple. One guy escapes, one guy gets hit, and then the guy who escaped manages to find a way to win. And like the preview of Malachi and Kenny, man, I don't think I've ever seen this many knees done to each other. Yeah, like the singles match between these two is just them eating knees upon knees upon knees. Kenny does like V-triggers. Malachi does his like knees out of everywhere. Like from the top turnbuckle, from a standing position, from every position. The match goes up another gear when Julia Hart gets involved. And then we get the Darby Allin spot with Brody King holding up Nick Jackson in a like hanging position, but with Matt saving his ass. And like just Matt not being able to like fully take out Brody. And it takes Kenny's V-trigger to like just take him down. It took 4 hits. And that's the logic I like. It takes more to take down a big guy than it is a normal person. And then final stretch of the match is like this sort of awkwardly set up, but the end result is very cool. I love the sell by Julia Hart. Where like she just stays a little bit too long. It seemed like she was waiting. And Kenny like saw her from behind, so I don't know why like he didn't notice her. But yeah, we get a confrontation between Kenny and Julia. Malachi tries to save her, but Kenny like V-triggers her off, and like she just falls down on the floor. And you would think Kenny's gonna be like, oh no, what did I do? Honor, honor, honor. He doesn't give a shit. Equal opportunity. You wanted this, Julia Hart. And just the near falls in this match. Just the desperation of the Bucks and Kenny with how much just like raw strength this other team has. Like this other team is just like above another power level over these guys. Like they've never faced a threat like this before, and it's well presented. So this match could have ended like 3 times now. One with the Julia Hart, and then the other one where Kenny was Dante's Inferno'd. But the final stretch is after the Elite get one more phase of control. Matt Jackson is tagged in, and then there I knew. This was it. House of Black are gonna win. We get this fucking amazing spot. I think this might be like number 1 or number 2 spot of the match. I have to rewatch. But the Bucks are going for a Meltzer driver. And then Buddy's just right there to nail Nick Jackson in the face as he's doing a 450, taking him out. The actual finish is a Black Mass on Matt Jackson, followed by a Dante's Inferno. Malachi pin, 1, 2, 3, House of Black are your new trios champions. And so yeah, sweet moment where they bring in Brody's son, who's wearing the mask. They turn off the light, and I don't think they should have done this. This like looks silly. This like unnecessarily funny. Because they turn off the lights and then House of Black are still making their way out the ring, doing them no favors. But yeah, thankfully it doesn't look like the Elite are gonna leave yet. They didn't bow to the crowd, they didn't say goodbye. The Elite are here to stay, at least for now. So yeah, this match, no question, with how I just summarized this shit, it's a pay-per-view main event level of match, and it's just like the 3rd match of the show. They really over-delivered for how much this feud was not built. So yeah, great match. I almost forgot the top 3 spots in the match. Number 3 is Malachi and Kenny face-to-face, sitting in front of each other. Number 2 is the Matt Jackson rally in the middle of the match. And number 1 is the counter to the Meltzer driver. This was incredible. This was like all over social media. Buddy need Nick Jackson to another dimension. This is fucking incredible. And then if we have like honorable mentions, the Julia Hart knockout has to be 1, as well as when the Elite regained back control. When like the House of Black got super kicked and Brody missed his like cannonball move. Love the Elite and House of Black. Hopefully this continues. We finally get the singles matches we want. And yeah, hopefully House of Black will be treated fairly this time. No more keeping them off TV, as well as the Elite. So yeah, after this is a sacrificial match. There are like 2 of these, but this one ends up faring better. since we're still early on in the show, but it was pretty shocking how much the crowd are still in the match, even if, like, they've been through, like, 2 bangers. So yeah, the next match is Jamie Hayter versus Soraya versus Ruby Soho. And I think I've made it known that I don't think Soraya is ready yet. I think she's still, like, really rusty. But they managed to circumvent that here by spending a lot of time outside. Like about 2 to 3 minutes. They were brawling outside amongst the crowd as Jamie and Ruby did high spots. Soraya did the most basic stuff, but it worked. She did a lot of heel work, a lot of strikes, but that's all she needed to do here. She left all of, like, the Joshi stuff, the high work rate stuff, to Jamie and Ruby. But that doesn't mean Soraya didn't take bumps. She took a hard bump on the apron that got Toni Storm checking on her. And so yeah, this 3-way match is not like the ones in the Ruthless Aggression era, where it's basically just like a 1v1 while one guy's taken out. I hated those so much. That's my biggest problem with the Benoit, Michaels, and Triple H match. Here it's modern. Everyone's pretty much involved. They put Soraya in the right position of a Tower of Doom. Like, she was the chillest among all of them. She took the least bumps, she looked good, and you managed to keep the match's pace. But there's one funny spot where Soraya tried to play Peacemaker, and then, like, just yelled stop to both of them. And then, like, the 2 women are you serious? You're the person who started all of this, and then they kick her ass. This is like number 3 spot of the match. Number 2 spot of the match is Soraya's bump, and number 1 spot of the match is this absolute beauty of, like, the ripcord lariat, the Rainmaker, that Jamie tries to hit on Ruby, but then hits Soraya behind instead. Great spot. I didn't expect this from Soraya, but well played. The finish is Jamie rolls up Ruby, and she retains. So yeah, I have to give them credit. This match was really fucking good. This match was so much better than the first. There were no botches, and this just blew Ricky Starks and Chris Jericho out of the water. This was so good, especially for what it had to follow. Great effort for all the women. And then as for the post-match, it looks like Ruby, as expected, chooses to be face because she's a natural babyface. She has a friend in the face faction, but then she turns on them. She joins the heels, and they stand tall in the end. I don't know how to feel about this. I know there's a rivalry between Britt Baker and Ruby Soho, but it doesn't suit Ruby to be like a heel. Like, I liked her more as a babyface in NXT and on Dynamite. And this has to have a follow-up with Willow. This just has to. I want Ruby to try and recruit Willow, and then Willow being the absolute babyface, not falling for it. The sides are now pretty much established, but the heels are still outnumbered. They need Monet, they need Trinity Fatu, and they need Athena. So yeah, hopefully this finally revives the feud. Not getting my hopes up yet. I'm not even gonna expect anything, so I'll be pleasantly surprised when it happens. So after this is the most controversial match of the night, but I think it's a load of BS. Because when other companies did this, when especially the WWE could not do any wrong, when they did this, it was okay for people. No one complained, people loved it. Mick Foley or Randy Orton can get thrown into flaming tables, but it's okay since it's a big company. But when Hangman Page and Jon Moxley do it, suddenly it's not okay. ECW made its name with this type of shit. It's not like CZW level. I've seen some of those and it's just too much. As well as I think Big Japan. And this wasn't even that bad. I don't normally say this, but people can be such pussies. It's on pay-per-view, it's not on live TV. People already bought the show. And it's a payoff to a blood feud. It had to go this way, especially with Mox's reputation. Even Ryan Satin, who is pretty much a WWE biased journalist, he's under their payroll like Ariel Helwani, defended the fucking match against a Raj Giri of Wrestle Inc. Alfred Kunua, who's a notorious hater of everything AEW, gave the match a 9.5 out of 10. And yeah, I'm gonna give my rating now. It's pay-per-view main event. It's like match of the year. Until later on. I think it doesn't beat out Ospreay versus Omega. That's number 2, this is number 3. And then of course, the match later is number 1. But yeah, as for this match, They start it before Mox's long-ass entrance finishes, and also nice one-off entrance for Hangman. Kind of liked it. It's like a change of character, but his old song is still a banger, and yeah, maybe just save this one for special occasions. So, to compare this with the match earlier, the other fight match of the card, this is like 10 times that. This was truly a fight. So they brawl outside the ring, and then when they come back inside, oh my sweet Jesus, they don't even wait. They get right to it. They make each other bleed at about 3 minutes. This was the slow, gritty Moxley match. They used objects such as barbed wire. So barbed wire to cut Mox, and then a fork, Abdullah the Butcher style, to just open up Hangman's forehead. It was Passion of the Christ out there. This was slow and methodical, with the selling needed for a match like this. The hardcore spots were pretty well spaced out as well, as in the weapons were set up in place, and then they took their damn time before they actually used the weapons. So the story of the match, I think it's pretty obvious. Two dudes want to kill each other. So yeah, this goes on for a while. So I'm just gonna go through all of the hardcore spots. But before I do, I'm just gonna have to commend the selling. There were no Supermen here. When they were hit with something, they stayed the fuck down. It was a bloody gritty fucking match. So yeah, for all the pussies out there who are watching the video, I suggest you tune out before I show you these screenshots that might terrify you, as well as their descriptions. So yeah, this is a bit of a long list. So shit gets real when Mox gets power bombed to like the chairs that are like wrapped in barbed wire and like back to back against each other. Thankfully, Paige power bombs Mox to just one side. It would have been like next level painful if like they went through the middle. I think they actually did this with AJ Styles. But yeah, we have this, and then we have the Orihara moonsault, where Paige wraps like barbed wire around himself as he's on the top turnbuckle, and then he does like an Orihara moonsault. This was some Mick Foley level shit that he would probably do if he was still active today. So yeah, like Hangman was a bit obsessed with the barbed wire. We had the spot where he tried to like wrap his leg around barbed wire, but it didn't work. He didn't get the barbed wire on like the sole of his foot, but it still got on Mox, so damage was still made. And then Mox brings in a chain and a brick. Who the hell uses a chain and a brick? Apparently Moxley does, because he then proceeds to pile driver Hangman on the chain STF, Hangman wraps barbed wire around his arm and does forearms, Mick Foley style. Creative stuff here. Especially the hand brick witch. Fall-away slam on the chair. We have Hangman doing some biting. We have a dead eye to the chair. And then Mox getting thrown to the bed that he set for himself. Or was it the other one? Because there are two beds of barbed wire. One is like on the hard cam. I think that one was Mox's. And then one is facing the ramp. I think that was Hangman's. And that was the one where Mox was thrown. But yeah, cool spot all the same. Oh, he wasn't thrown. Outside dive, and then Mox lands on the barbed wire. And then when they get back in the ring, we get like the scratching spot by Mox. But like Hangman answers back, but this time it makes sense since there's visible marks left by the nails. And then Mox does this with barbed wire, and why the hell did you not do this before? This makes all the sense in the world. Paige's back was being cut as this was happening. Holy fucking shit. We made fun of this shit. But now it finally looks good. That has to be like top 3 spot of the match. And then it's followed right after by the top 2 spot of the match where fucking Mox pushes Hangman off of the top rope, off the top turnbuckle to the bed that he set outside. And then finally we go back to the storytelling. They do a spot where it's a callback. It's the exact same spot that knocked Hangman out. But no flip this time. We don't want Hangman to legit get hurt and ruin this match. So yeah, after an encounter, Hangman, $1 million baby style, lands on the brick face first, and then gets curb stomped. Everything else moves up. This is number 3 spot of the match. Tribute to his friend. And then for the finishing sequence. It's Hangman literally trying to hang Moxley. And succeeding. And then Mox taps out while being hung from the top rope to the apron to the floor. This is spot of the match here, the ending. Because Hangman, for the first time ever, fulfills his name. And it took like a pretty good while for Hangman to properly set up the chain. It's like how in Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr., how they hang Mark Strong in that movie. Fucking great match. Pay-per-view main event. Number 3 match of the year. It was a miracle that any other good match could follow this. Don't ever compare Logan Paul to Hangman Page ever again. Hangman Page is the true babyface and the protagonist of AEW. So after this is the match that needed to get sacrificed. Like, there was no way anything could follow this. Like, even if they put in a 1-hour Iron Man match, they would have been tired from this 26-minute classic. Holy shit. And the match that had to follow this was the one for the TNT title. In my opinion, the TNT title should have went right after the Jericho match. Like, it was impossible. Poor Wardlow and Joe. I mean, they did their best, but there was no way. There was no snowball's chance that they could come anywhere close to the quality of the match with Hangman and Mox. But they try. So yeah, for this one, they tried their best by going for high spots. Joe does like a diving elbow or like a diving forearm all the way outside to Wardlow. Didn't know he can do this. Surprising, actually. And a bit dangerous. While Wardlow goes for his like whisper to the wind. Things then slow down. Props to the crowd, they're still reacting. It wasn't as loud as anything else in the card, but for what the crowd went through, they really pulled through in this match. But the match itself is just like slow storytelling. Wardlow's leg. Joe tries to take advantage of a previous injury that he inflicted on Wardlow. Long-term storytelling, question mark. But we've pretty much all forgotten. There have been better feuds in between. Darby Allin. I appreciate the power moves. Nice to see a big man actually do a spine buster and even an F5. But I don't think the F5 suits Wardlow. It's like iconic for Brock Lesnar. And I can't even believe that Brian Cage uses it as like just a throwaway move. I like that the match was even. They made Joe look strong in defeat. And they even had him faint. Wardlow hits him with a coquina clutch of his own after Wardlow like survives like a minute of coquina clutch. And then Wardlow wins. I don't think this was epic enough for a blow-off. Like, for the amount of hatred they have for each other, this match wasn't enough to, like, convincingly end a feud. I actually like the second match more. This is, like, neck and neck with Starks versus Jericho as worst match of the night. But it's not bad. I think it's, like, TV main event, pay-per-view, opener. But just barely. This would have been better if held on TV. But yeah, I guess Wardlow has the belt again. But I want him to lose it right away to Hobbs since, like, we already got this. I mean, it was pretty underrated in my opinion. But Wardlow had some really good matches. It was a fun run. It wasn't the best, but it was okay. And I think it would suit him better to be in, like, a program against Max. Like, the guy who he squashed. That's like... Wait, when did he squash him? I think it's like Double or Nothing. Yeah, and it's like the exact same time. I think I'm predicting Wardlow loses the title because of Max, like next week. And then they build them up for Double or Nothing. Yeah, that makes sense. And then, of course, Max wins. I actually think Hobbs is the more exciting wrestler right now in ring. Wardlow needs to build himself back up. But yeah, we'll see on Dynamite this week. So after this is the most controversial match coming into the show. It's the 4-way tag team match for the tag team championships. Everyone did not like Triple J to join the match, as well as Danhausen and Orange. We wanted either FTR or literally any other team. But I argued that story-wise, like with the teams feuding, you managed to like join them up, like mash them up into one story. They're confluencing with each other. Shit, was that right? But yeah, the mechanic of the match is the alliance between the heels. The faces also seem to have this like unspoken alliance. They don't attack each other for the whole match, which is I think BS since this is a free-for-all. So it's 4v4 for a time until the Ass Boys, who are not perceived as much of a threat. They're not portrayed as like the tough guys, the strong guys. They're pretty much bitches. They will betray who they have to betray. They will cheat if they have to. And they are the ones who broke the alliance between them and Triple J. And this is right after they had like a 4-man Fargo strut followed by a scissor. And yeah, a whole lot of crowd working here. Very party-based match. I also like the spot where Orange... Like, Danhausen was doing, like, forever lariats. And then Orange Cassidy, like, was windmilling his arm, preparing for something, but then faking out. Really fun stuff. But the spot I didn't like from Orange is the one where he did like the overhead slams with his hands in his pockets. I'm a fan of Orange Cassidy, I like what he does, but this one crossed the line. So yeah, the crowd reacted very well for this one. After they sort of died from the last match, the crowd came back from this. This did its job. And yeah, when the Ass Boys, like, for realsies, betrayed Triple J, because for the first time, they, like, threw them directly at Caster and Bones, I was surprised that Sanjay didn't react to this, because this was like an open declaration of war. But when they, like, actually attacked them, Sanjay Dutt made sure they heard about it. Satnam Singh enters, he takes them out, and then we have spot of the match. So yeah, spots of the match first. Number 3 is the four-sided scissors and Fargo strut. Number 2 is the mic drop pin breakup. And number 1 is this face-to-face between Danhausen and Satnam Singh. Of course, Danhausen can't take him on by himself. So Orange delivers an orange punch. Danhausen follows with a punch to the dick. And then Daddy Ass, famouser, but it sort of hurt Satnam. He landed like on his back. This looked pretty bad. Satnam like left right after this. And then we have the most questionable thing about this match. Aubrey Edwards going to business for herself. This was like a piece of shit right here. I like Aubrey Edwards, like more than any other ref except maybe Bryce Remsburg. But what she did here, when she like allowed Jeff Jarrett to hit Max Caster with a guitar, but then when Max tried to hit Jarrett, she tried to take it away from Max. Like, this is no DQ. Rules have been broken earlier on in the match. This doesn't matter. And then like after this, when Jay Lethal hit Max with a Golden Globe, and then Jeff Jarrett got a kick out. Again, why do you need to distract the ref? But when Max Caster kicked out, Jeff got into Aubrey's face. Like, he was pissed off. Aubrey, same way. They have a shoving match. I popped for this. When he, like, shoved Aubrey, and then she shoved back, leading to the finishing sequence. And yeah, bad look for Aubrey. This was, like, the biggest botched call of the night. It was like the NFL refs. I don't know if this was booked or this was just a bad call from Aubrey. But yeah, after this, the finish was pretty cool. Danhausen sets up for the curse. He tries to win the match. But then Ass Boys hit a 310 to Yuma. What an awesome name of a movie. And apparently a finisher. So yeah, they win the match, and then post-match, they cut a promo, and it was like very obvious from this point. Like, this was literally serving them up on a silver platter for FTR. I was just like waiting. I was so ready to be proven right about FTR. About all those people who want everyone to leave AEW to like just shut up. Just shut the fuck up. Because FTR do show up. And it was sick. They got a big ass pop. And they're probably going to be the next champions. So yeah, great return. This ended up setting expectations for CM Punk, but I didn't expect that. Maybe in a later show or later pay-per-view. But yeah, as for this match, I think it was pretty good. I don't think it was better than the women's match. I think the worst match is Wardlow versus Joe, and then Starks versus Jericho, and then this, when it starts to trend up, and then the women's match, Boy versus Christian, Elite versus Hobb, and then Mox versus Hangman. As for number 1, it's the one that comes after. So yeah, after this is the main event, the most well-built feud of the entire show. This is what everyone came here to see, and it doesn't disappoint. Max's entrance with the orchestra didn't quite work for me since I didn't hear anything. I barely heard any of the instruments. Actually, I heard more of Max's music. Like, I even have this when you can't hear them. This was terrible. If it wasn't for MJF pouring water on that kid on live pay-per-view for like thousands to see, we would be trashing this entrance even more. And so yeah, MJF poured some water on a kid, and you gotta know what you're like gonna have to deal with in these shows. Very interactive with the crowd, especially MJF. He is the pure heel. So I don't get the mother being mad. Everyone is fair game for MJF. But thankfully, Tony Khan's there. They give him like a signed turnbuckle and I guess a lot of merch and then maybe free tickets. So yeah, good on that kid and good on that mom. But seriously though, you signed up for this as a fan. MJF literally threw a phone to the floor. I won't be surprised that one day if AEW gets big enough, he pisses someone off, then that person jumps the barricade and kicks his ass. But yeah, before that day comes, let's enjoy MJF. I suggest you get fighting lessons, but let's get on to the match. Oh yeah, this whole thing happened during the first 10 minutes. Yeah, he spilled water on the kid in the first 10 minutes, and I wish that at minute 20 or something, minute 30, Danielson would have just brought MJF to the kid and then let him pour water on him. That would have been a nice touch. But yeah, instead, the first 10 minutes just ends up being a lot of taunting, a lot of talking to the camera, trash talking Dave Meltzer. They wasted time, pretty much. It would have been cool to see 30 minutes of just stare down, just like Go Shizaki and Kazuki Fujita. But yeah, seeing that the match lasted for 65 minutes, I can understand why you would want to waste just 10. Because we have a lot of match to go through. Yeah, but still though. You should have brought MJF to the kid. Just saying. Have that, give him tickets, give him that signed turnbuckle, and just have him interact with MJF. Would have done nothing since Danielson would be there and MJF would still be protected. It's just like what Seth Rollins did in that house show, but this time on a pay-per-view, which would get more parents to bring their kids to get more free stuff. Easy draw right there. But yeah, it wasn't all taunting, mostly taunting though, but we had some pretty good storytelling as well. At the start, Danielson just wrestled circles around MJF. Danielson was smiling all over the place. That's why he did the jumping jacks. But yeah, the next 10 minutes, so that's from 10 to 20, is half MJF's, half Danielson's. In MJF's half, he works on the arm. It's the arm that his mercenaries focused on for the past, I think 5 straight weeks. I forgot. It was 3 weeks ago, but yeah. I like that he didn't just do rest holds like most wrestlers would. I like that he included the slams as well. Next 5 minutes is a comeback for Danielson, but eventually at the end of that period of time, MJF regains control and then he hits Danielson with his lung blower, but not on his injured knee. This was a missed opportunity here. It would have been great storytelling to hit this on his left, but yeah, they eventually get to that. 20 minutes closes with a Shawn Michaels pose that calls back to Shawn versus Brett, which is now an inferior Iron Man match. So for the next 10 minutes, 20 to 30, is MJF's leg. He hurts this when he goes for a moonsault. He tries to do too much. He betrays his own code, and this is what you get. But after 20 minutes of just slow wrestling, we finally have some fun. I can't really say that this next move is fun. It's pump handle driver on Danielson. It was uncomfortable as shit. He lands on his neck. Disgusting spot to watch. But yeah, after that, things lighten up. We get a spinning sort of pin exchange. It was funny but silly. The first fall happens shortly after this. It's at 26th minute of the match with 34 left. Exact time is on the screen. But yeah, this was an average fall. They beat a 10 count, Busaiku knee, Danielson gets the first pin. But then shortly after this, about a minute, because of Danielson's hubris and arrogance, that he's gotten the first fall, out-wrestled MJF, dude tries to go for another Busaiku knee, MJF collapses, and then just nonchalantly tries to approach MJF, boom, low blow. And then MJF gets 2 straight falls. Genius spot. I like this. And there's no rest period between falls, so yeah. And what's it with MJF and water? He poured water on a kid, he drank a lot of water, then he pours water on himself. AEW confirmed, sponsored by water. We finish the 30th minute with Danielson finally taking things serious. He does a rally around the ring in order to do a drop kick. The next 10 minutes is Danielson's revenge. Now it's his turn to work on MJF's leg, and then we even get a slap fight. MJF slaps were baby slaps, and then frickin' Danielson just slapped the taste out of MJF's mouth. MJF tried to turn a figure 4 leg lock, but Danielson is too good a wrestler, as was the story earlier on in the match, that he's unable to turn it around. This is terrifying. The tombstone later on in the match is foreshadowed. Danielson kicks the shit out of MJF's leg. We get a tease for a backdrop from the top of the turnbuckle. Max escapes and then accidentally destroys a camera. Now we have 2 cameras destroyed in the show. Poor Tony Khan. But it's probably just a drop in the bucket for this guy. It's a nothing amount. He does a diving elbow drop from the top turnbuckle to Danielson, who's propped on the timekeeper's table. It's like reminiscent of the reach for the sky elbow, the froggy bow that Mark Briscoe did on Jay. It like reminded me of that. But the form is a Shawn Michaels elbow. He follows this up with a running tombstone to like the remains of the table, and then consistent selling of the left leg. This is how we close the 40th minute. That was so fucking dangerous. It's a running tombstone. How is Danielson not dead? Even The Undertaker doesn't do this. And so yeah, Danielson bleeding on the head is also bleeding in his mouth. This was insane and a great visual. And like from this point on, from like the next 10 minutes, it's targeting Danielson's head. His weakness. MJF's just trying to concuss him. He heat seekers him, and it looks so fucking good. And then again, for a 4th time, MJF goes for water. AEW Revolution 2023, brought to you by H2O. MJF pinfall goes up 3-2. And then yeah, we get the storytelling that WWE fans want. They really love the in-ring talking, and I do too. I think AEW's rings are mic'd alright. Better than Impact's, but we somehow get better like voices from that. But yeah, well mic'd tonight. MJF revisits the story in a span of like 2 minutes. The Birdie and Buddy, is his name Buddy? Yeah, the calling out of Danielson's kids' names, as well as the same camera position for his pipe bomb. And I don't know if it's just me, but I think they forgot to go for pins. This got so personal that they forgot to go for pins. They were just out to hurt each other because Danielson comes back. He comes back and he like sells it. He falls down. The usual stuff. I love this shit, by the way. I love it when they do this. They did this first then in the WWE, by the way. Happened first in Japan. I don't remember people just falling down upon doing a move in the WWE. Before like companies outside did it. So yeah, fuck off. Danielson comes back. And like I said, this would have been the perfect time. Bring MJF to ringside and then just like have the kid get his shots in. This was the closest they got. But yeah, they go back in the ring and then this spider superplex has to be like a shitty move to do. I mean, like, how uncomfortable would it be to like perform a suplex, right? A superplex. You do the superplex, you hang on the top turnbuckle, and you whiplash yourself down. Then you have to do a sit-up, back up. And Danielson like did a diving headbutt that apparently turned this match to the passion of the max. Blood was all over, too fast. Unbelievable. Like a diving headbutt would cause blood to like flow over someone's face this fucking fast. Unless like the scalp is cut. Gaping wound. But yeah, after this, Busaiku knee, Regal stretch, MJF taps, 3-3 Danielson. And the last 10 minutes. I can't believe it, but in an Iron Man match, they managed to hold the crowd for the whole way. They wasted the right minutes in those specific spots, and then they made the later ones count. Like in this last 10 minutes, man, everything happens. The label lock attempt where Danielson like slips, like he can't lock it in because MJF's face is just like lubricated with blood. And then MJF finally like overcoming Danielson's wrestling. He shows a bit of wrestling of his own. Wraps him up in a pretzel. He hits the Fujiwara armbar, and then we get the strike battle, where it's just stiff. This is the loudest I've heard MJF like hit someone. This was like Japanese shit right here. And then like best visual of the night. Their heads are like side to side. They're like leaning on each other. Where on one side, MJF is crying. Then like on the other side, Danielson is just like having the time of his life. And then for the final moments of the match, about like the last 5 minutes or 2 minutes, it gets more intense as we get closer to 0, but yeah. They hunt for the final count. They go for the hardest strikes in the match. Running forearm, discus elbow, or like a discus forearm. MJF tries to concuss Danielson twice. Heat seeker, and then unquestionably the top spot of the match, the flying tombstone pile driver. This was amazing. This was the greatest spot I've ever seen in AEW. Like, who the hell does this? Who else does this? The Undertaker never did this. It's too dangerous. But they did it here. MJF and Danielson are having like one of the best matches of all time. Better than Michaels versus Hart. Better than a lot of your favorites. I don't think it's as good as like Misawa versus Kobashi or some of the late 2000s New Japan matches, but it's over. Yeah, it's over Michaels versus Undertaker. It's over any match that Stone Cold has had. They just did more here. Like the only ones that can compete with this is fucking New Japan and All Japan, and like Noah. Four Pillars of Heaven, and like the new Three Musketeers. It's missing the build, but like as a match, this was amazing. And it doesn't even end at regulation, because after MJF goes for a pin, Danielson counters to a single leg crab that he holds for a minute. MJF sells the shit out of this, gets kept away from the ropes, he's stuck in the middle of the ring, and then we get like a Psyche Yoshioka moment where he just like withstands this pain. He holds it until time runs out and then taps out at 0. And shit, the match isn't over yet. Because after the fans let us hear about it, the fans were still loud, by the way. I think they were loudest at this point than the entire show. After an hour of fucking wrestling, of like the same match, and like about 3+ of the entire show, they ask for more time. And then like Tony Schiavone comes down, who's not a real journalist, then he announces it, sudden death rules, while MJF is like hooked to oxygen. This was so funny. And like, it was like, administer oxygen via face mask, 6 LPM, please. Next line, continue the match via sudden death rules. Refer accordingly, thank you. But yeah, he relays to Justin Roberts and then he makes the actual announcement. So yeah, MJF is incensed. Final 5 minutes of the match, sudden death. Maybe 4 or 5. Around that time. So yeah, this part here was just Storytelling Jones. It's just all the fun stuff compacted in 4 minutes. MJF pulls everything out his ass. All of the cheating attempts. This was Storytelling Jones. Bryce was much part of the story, as Danielson and MJF were. He has a shove off with Bryce, distraction low blow. He goes for the title shot, and Bryce is just furious. Be my guest, hit him, I'm gonna DQ you, you're gonna lose the title. This isn't subtle storytelling anymore. This is just storytelling. And MJF is foiled multiple times. Bryce Remsburg is now like my favorite ref. He's MVP. He's taken it from Aubrey. I love that the refs are as lovable as the wrestlers. So cool. But yeah, Bryce takes away the title. MJF goes for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. Misses. Danielson poison Rana's him, but I think Daniel sort of concussed himself here. He should get imaging because you could hear it from the stream, like how his head landed on that floor. It was really loud. Bryce takes away the diamond ring. MJF taps out as he goes for the rope break. And then he successfully cheats with the oxygen tank. And I don't know if this counts as MJF cheated to win. It isn't the direct cause. It gets him to lock in the label lock. But Danielson had a chance. I guess this lessens the blow of the cheating. It was still a 1-hour match. But yeah, oxygen shot, label lock. Bryce goes for the 3-arm drop. Danielson's arm goes up at 3. We get a hope spot. We get like a hint that Danielson might like still be in the match. Like for me, this should have continued to shut up all of the doubters. Even suplex. MJF should have released the hold and then we should have had like maybe 1 more minute. MJF wins clean. But yeah, MJF keeps it on. Danielson loses it. His hand goes down and then he taps out to his own move. Fucking great match. Best match in AEW history. And is like only topped by... I don't know what tops this one. Ospreay versus Omega is really close. In my opinion, this is better. This one beat Ospreay versus Omega. This might be match of the year so far. But yeah, 1 and 2, either Ospreay versus Omega or Danielson versus MJF. And as for the score, it's pay-per-view main event only, 4 Pillars of Heaven level of match. Yeah, it's that fucking good. For the top spots of the match, I'm not gonna flash them anymore. I like showed you an hour's worth of like pictures. So yeah, number 3 is the imagery. Half and half of MJF crying and Danielson laughing. Number 2 is diving elbow drop to the table. And then number 1 is the flying tombstone piledriver. AEW overperformed with this pay-per-view. This had no right to be this good with that build. Like, the build was fucking terrible. But the pay-per-view ended up being their best of all time. Like, no other AEW pay-per-view beats this. Not even All In, not All Out, not Double or Nothing. This is the best AEW pay-per-view ever, and fucking sadly, the booking drove away people, thus not drawing enough to sell out the arena. But it did do better than last year's show. But based on the quality of the card, they should have had more buys. They should have had like a bigger attendance. The attendance is not proportional to the quality of the show. That's all I gotta say. No match was specifically bad. I think that was because you didn't have Jade here. You should like send her to Japan, Tony Khan. Not have her wrestle in pay-per-views again for like maybe 2 years. But yeah, amazing pay-per-view, really good. AEW's best. And it might be the best of the year so far. Elimination Chamber, if it wasn't for the Bloodline, would be average. That match was also a bit uneventful. The WWE is fully capable of having matches like this. They have Cody, so I expect them to try and top this at WrestleMania. But do they need to? The bar is so low that Roman and Cody could just have like a TV match and no one would care. As for the New Japan shows, they're very top-heavy. This one's strong all throughout. It's a hell of a lot better than Impact No Surrender, that's for sure. So yeah, number 2 is Stardom. Stardom Supreme Fight. Number 3 is Tokyo Joshi Pro. No kidding. The one where Maki Ito and Miyu Yamashita main evented. And number 1 is this pay-per-view. Revolution 2023. Bye-bye. Yeah, like, comment, and subscribe and shit. Time to edit the video. Oh my god, this is like an hour long. Bye-bye.